What's going on, family? Samuel Genus here with Jesus Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Many of us, we live in subdivisions in America, where our yards are not that big. And for those of you, you've been hearing me talking about being prepared and things of that nature. And unfortunately, many Americans, we're living in these subdivisions, HOA communities, and our water is coming from the government. Our electricity and energy is coming from power companies. Our food is coming from supermarkets, And when we're basically trying to pay our mortgages and pay our rents, right? And that's basically what we're dealing with, right? And we're hearing talks about a failing economy. We're hearing talks about a crisis that's going to hit America. Some people are saying it's going to be worse than the Great Depression. Some people are saying that it's going to be problematic. There's going to be long-term unemployment. There's going to be water shortages and food shortages. And within the church, we've been hearing all kinds of prophetic voices talking about the things that are coming. And for me, my question is, okay, we know that things are coming. You've been telling us things that are coming. We can hear it both in the church and we can hear it even among the financial advisors, within the world. There seems to be a consensus, right? Now, the details may be a little bit different, some more severe than others, but there seems to be a consensus that things are coming and it's not going to be good. Unfortunately, when we think about the Great Depression, during the Great Depression, a much higher percentage of Americans were farmers. They had farms in their yards, they were growing food. They probably still went to the village and the marketplace to buy certain things from the stores, but they still had a certain amount of food that they was growing. They had cows or chickens and sheep, goats and pigs, hogs. My family's, my mother's side, she's from the South. And so they had that on my mom's grandpa's property, my grandfather's and grandmother's property, right? They don't have that today, right? And unfortunately in 2024, that doesn't exist for most families. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a severe problem. Why? Because that means that most Americans are dependent upon the government for their survival. They're dependent upon big corporations for their survival. So when there is a crisis and when there is a shortage of food and when there is a problem within the trucking industry and the transportation and the industry and the problem with oil, and guess what happens? Food on the shelves is going to be gone within 3 to 4 days. And most Americans have about 3 to 4 days worth of food in their houses anyway. The average American does not have food in their house for the next 3 weeks or the next 6 weeks or the next 6 months, right? So we are severely unprepared. The Bible says, consider the ants, how they gather in the summer and store for the winter. We obviously in America, we haven't really gotten to that point. We're just living paycheck to paycheck. We're just living one meal to the next meal. We're basically living on a weekly basis. We're not really storing up. We're not really planning. We're not really forecasting. We're not really being wise. We're actually a country of debt. We're a citizen and a culture of debt, right? So what's the solution? The solution is, ladies and gentlemen, is God is calling us back to the land, right? He's calling us back to the land. The land is where your water comes from. The land is where your food comes from. The land is where the resources are. And so the Lord is calling us, hey, go back to the land. No one told us, or I should say the Lord didn't tell us to take our eyes off the land and only focus on technology, take our eyes off the land and only focus on being a nurse or being a doctor or lawyer or being a computer programmer. I'm a computer programmer, I love technology, but the Lord even chastised me and corrected me and said, Sam, come back to the land. There's things that are coming. And so, yes, I've been listening, I've been getting my generator, right? Not just a bunch of batteries, like some people are saying, some of these prophets are saying, it's like, oh, just get yourself a few extra batteries. I'm like, no, you're going to need something a lot more than that, because we're talking about days, weeks, and possibly months of challenges. And some people are even saying years of challenges, right? And so if we're talking about long-term solutions, then we got to go beyond just this basic, hey, make sure y'all got a bunch of extra D batteries somewhere, and make sure you have, a few extra water bottles. No, you're going to need a lot more than a few water bottles, okay? You're going to have to start thinking long-term. We're going to have to reset our thinking and be like, okay, Lord, how do we create renewable energy, sustainable communities so that we can survive? And so the Lord is saying, start right where you're at, right? I'm looking for some land. I actually found some land. I'm going to be checking it out next week, a few acres of land. I suggest you do the same. But hey, you got to start where you're at. Some of y'all have some yard space, right? Create a garden. This is what we're going to do with ours, right? This is our space. It's an okay sized yard. It's not that big, so we got a little bit of space, to do something. And the Lord is saying, well, do something. Sam, do something. Do something with what I've given you. Do something with what you have, And so this is enough space, ladies and gentlemen. This may not be enough space to provide food for the whole year, but this is definitely enough space to offset your costs. This is definitely enough space to grow things that you're going to eat, as far as like different types of vegetables and, lettuce, cabbage, celery, onions, tomatoes, carrots. There's a whole bunch of vegetables that you can grow, right? And you can start. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to, over the next couple of days and weeks, we're going to be creating some videos about the progress we're making in our backyard. And I'll also be sharing with you the progress that I'm making with the acres of land we're going to buy, right? For those of you who want to participate, for those of you who want to be a part of that community, send me a message, because we're going to need community. This is just a start, right? This is not the end all be all, but hey, you got to start where you can. And so I encourage you, start farming. When? Today. I encourage you to get ready, start planning. When? Today. Don't wait next week. Don't wait till next month. Start figuring it out today. Start learning, start studying, start asking the right questions and getting around the right people to help you get started and maintain. Because especially as fathers and mothers and heads of households, we are responsible for our household. So we need to be thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing to prepare so that my family can survive and can be comfortable, or at least have some level of comfort in the midst of the challenges that are coming? As a head of household, as a husband, you got to be thinking about these things. As a wife, you got to be thinking about these things. You got to be thinking about your children. Husbands, you got to be thinking about your wife and kids. Pastors, you got to be thinking about the church. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so start with the land. Start with the land. Start sharing ideas. Start asking questions. Start gardening. For those of you who can, get yourself some chickens. Get yourself some small livestock. Start preparing. Start creating long-term solutions. Long-term. Don't just think about, having just food for 7 days. I have the freezer where I have extra food. I have a generator to at least jumpstart my renewable energy needs. I have portable tools, and I have a bug out bags and all that kind of stuff. I have the big water jugs, right? But even some of those things, not all of them, but some of those things, they're only temporary solutions. It's like, the food in your freezer is only going to last for so long. So you need something that's going to constantly produce food, year after year, month after month, season after season. You're going to need something that's going to constantly produce food. So yes, store up food. When? Start today, but then also consider working on the land. All right. So that's just what I wanted to encourage you with. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be, I'm gonna share some videos. We're gonna be going to the lumber yard. We're actually gonna start with like raised bed garden, because I'm getting older and that's a lot of digging. But that's what we're gonna be doing. I encourage you to do the same. Just get started as best as you can. All right. My name is Samuel Genus with Jesus Church here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I will see you in the next video. Take care.